Good morning. My name is Anne-Marie Matthews. I'm the lead for Clinical Commissioning and IPFR for Aneurin Bevan Health Board, and I'm here today to talk to you about the top policy changes made to the individual patient funding request process. So in January 2017, following an independent review of the 2014 IPFR policy, the independent review of the IPFR process in Wales report was published, followed by the implementation of an updated IPFR policy, which replaced the former exceptionality criteria with one that focused on evidence of significant clinical benefit. In December 2021, the Welsh Health Specialist Services Committee, as it was then known, was subject to a judicial review following a decision to decline funding for a patient who did not fulfil the WISC policy criteria for the treatment proposed. In the case, the judge accepted the evidence by WISC about how policy development occurs for the NHS in Wales and did not question the adoption of general policies. The judge also broadly accepted the three criteria in the IPFR policy that panel members must apply, namely significantly different, significantly more clinical benefit, and reasonable value for money. However, the judge picked over the language of both the commissioning policy and the NICE guidelines relating to the proposed intervention, along with a number of other aspects of the decision-making process, resulting in the case being upheld against WISC on a number of grounds. So in terms of the judgment grounds and policy interpretation, the key area where the judge diverged from WISC's interpretation of the policy related to the identification of the appropriate comparator group. When applying significantly different and significantly greater clinical benefit criteria, it's essential that the panel correctly identifies the group of patients against whom the individual case is being compared. So under the current policy, the table, as you can see on the screen, sets out that the comparator should reflect circumstances where guidelines, for example, from NICE or the AWMSG, recommend that the intervention or drug should not be used. Although the example is not exhaustive, the intention was that commissioning policies, where they exist, would also apply. Within NHS Wales, such commissioning policies would take precedent over NICE interventional procedures guidance. NICE technology appraisals are, however, mandatory. However, the judge concluded that this was not what the wording of the policy expressly required. Without going into the specifics of the particular case, the judge determined that the appropriate comparator group could not be defined as those excluded under the commissioning policy. Instead, the comparator group should be those patients who meet the relevant NICE criteria. In this case, the judge therefore concluded that the policy had been incorrectly interpreted and that the patient had not been compared with the appropriate comparator group on which the panel had based its decision. In terms of the other grounds, the record keeping and rationale was picked up. This was a major criticism raised by the judge related to the recording of the panel's rationale for its decision. The judge focused on the section of the policy that explicitly requires a detailed explanation of the reasons behind any decision made. It was observed that the requesting clinician had provided clear arguments as to why the patient met both the significantly different and significantly greater clinical benefit criteria. However, neither the decision letter nor the panel's recorded minutes addressed or responded to any of those points. So value for money, the judge also raised concerns about relating to value for money and the wider concept of proportionality. So while she acknowledged that the challenges faced in determining the quality associated with the treatment, she emphasised the importance of balancing the rights of the individual patient with the potential impact on the wider population in line with the principles of prudent healthcare. She noted that the cost of the intervention, offset by any potential savings, must be considered, and that the panel is required to provide clear reasoning for its conclusions in relation to this criterion, regardless of the outcome. In terms of other treatment options, this was the final ground on which the claimant succeeded related to the consideration of alternative treatment options. The judge emphasised that the panel must satisfy itself as to whether the referring clinician has accurately described the treatment options available to the patient. Where there is evidence that the clinician has set out these options correctly, it is not appropriate for the panel to assume the role of the treating clinician by proposing additional treatments. However, if the alternatives have not been fully described, this should be clarified with the treating clinician in advance of the panel meeting. Adopting a process whereby the panel accepts the options presented by the referring clinician at face value, unless there is clear evidence to doubt them, significantly reduces the likelihood of legal challenge. So what changes have we made to the IPFR policy following this judgment? So the decision-making criteria has been amended. It's been updated to clearly set out the considerations required under both Part A and Part B. The table in this slide illustrates that where guidelines or a clinical commissioning policy exist, the criteria under Part A must be applied. The policy narrative further explains that under Part A, panel members must consider whether the patient's clinical circumstances are significantly different from those of other patients for whom the recommendation is not to use the intervention. This will usually involve comparing the individual patient with other patients who have had the same medical condition and who could have been offered the treatment if the relevant guideline or policy permitted its use. Panel members must then assess whether there is a significant difference between the patient's circumstances and those of the comparator group, and whether the patient is likely to derive significantly greater clinical benefit than would normally be expected for patients for whom the intervention is not recommended. Where these criteria are satisfied, the panel should then consider whether the intervention represents value for money. In the absence of applicable guidelines or a commissioning policy, the panel must follow the criteria under Part B. This requires the panel to consider whether the patient is likely to gain significant clinical benefit from the treatment requested, and if this criterion is met and supported by the evidence provided, the panel should then assess whether the intervention is considered to offer value for money. Other policy changes that have been made following the judgment are decision-making factors. So the decision-making guide has been updated to reflect the recent changes to the policy, and the revised guide is included at Appendix 1 in the IPFR policy. Panels may find it useful to refer to the factors outlined in the table when considering individual cases. However, they're not required to apply every factor listed, and some may not be relevant to the specific circumstances of a particular case. The complaint section's been updated, so following changes to the NHS Wales Putting Things Right legislations, or PTR, the wording in the IPFR policy has been updated to make this distinction clear. Raising a concern under the PTR process applies only to the care a patient receives before or after an IPFR decision. It does not apply to the IPFR decision-making process itself, nor to the decision that's been reached by the panel. The terms of reference for the WISC panel were also amended. So several amendments have been made to these terms of reference, and these include representation. So membership has been updated so that health board representatives are now clinical only, ensuring alignment with the terms of reference used by health boards. The meeting frequency has changed. So the panel's frequency has been revised from a fixed monthly meeting to a minimum of once per month. Given the current volume of requests, meetings are held fortnightly. However, updated wording provides flexibility to cancel a meeting where appropriate. The quorum requirements have been amended. The quorum of health board representatives has been reduced from 5 to 4, and this change aims to minimise meeting cancellations and maintain consistent quoracy levels. and the terminology has been changed throughout. So the Welsh Health Specialised Services Committee officially transitioned to the NHS Wales Joint Commissioning Committee on the 1st of April 2024, and the change has been reflected throughout the document. The panel record sheet and some training has been updated. So in response to the findings highlighted in the judgment regarding insufficient record keeping and a lack of detailed rationale for decision making, we've revised the panel record sheet to support more comprehensive and consistent documentation. Additionally, targeted training and further support for IPFR coordinators to strengthen understanding and ensure robust recording practices are made has been updated going forward. So just to conclude, the updated IPFR policy with all of these changes is due to be implemented across health boards on the 2nd of February 2026. Updating our policies is a vital step towards ensuring fairer decision making, improving the quality of our assessments, and reinforcing trust in how healthcare funding decisions are made. Together, these changes place us in a stronger position to deliver clear, consistent, and accountable outcomes for patients. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.